It was a gloomy Tuesday morning when I arrived at Marshwood High School. The rain had been falling relentlessly, adding an eerie atmosphere to an already unsettling day. I was a senior, and the prospect of graduation was the only thing keeping me going. Little did I know that this day would turn into a harrowing experience that would forever alter my life. The school day began as usual, with students shuffling to their classes and teachers droning on about algebra and history. But something felt off, a sense of unease that hung in the air like a thick fog. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but the feeling gnawed at me, making it difficult to focus on my studies. As the minutes ticked by, that feeling of unease grew stronger. I noticed my classmates exchanging worried glances, and the whispers in the hallways became more hushed. It was as if a dark secret loomed over the school, a secret that everyone was afraid to acknowledge. Then, it happened. An ear-piercing alarm blared throughout the school, causing everyone to jump in their seats. The intercom crackled to life, and the principal's voice came through, trembling with anxiety. "Attention, everyone. We are initiating a lockdown. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. All students and staff, please proceed to the nearest classroom or office immediately. Lock all doors, turn off the lights, and remain silent. Do not open the doors for anyone." Panic spread through the classroom like wildfire. The teacher hurriedly guided us into a small, windowless room, which served as a storage closet. It was cramped, and the walls seemed to close in on us. As the teacher locked the door and turned off the lights, the reality of the situation sank in. No one knew what was happening. All we had to go on were the cryptic words from the intercom. Why were we in a lockdown? Who or what were we hiding from? The questions raced through my mind, but there were no answers. The minutes turned into hours, and the sense of dread only deepened. The silence in the room was oppressive, broken only by the sound of our shallow breaths and the muffled sobs of frightened students. We had no way to communicate with the outside world. Our cell phones were useless, the signal jammed or blocked, and there was no Wi-Fi connection. As time dragged on, our imaginations began to run wild. Every creak, every distant sound became a potential threat. I couldn't help but think of all the horror stories I'd heard about school shootings, about students barricading themselves in classrooms while danger lurked just outside. The fear was paralyzing. We huddled together in the darkness, clutching our backpacks and textbooks as if they were our lifelines. The hours stretched into an agonizing eternity, and it felt as though the world outside had ceased to exist. I thought of my family, my friends, and the life I had taken for granted. The unknown had a way of stripping away the facade of safety and revealing the fragility of our existence. Then, a faint sound, so soft that I almost didn't hear it, cut through the silence. It was a whisper, coming from the corner of the room. I strained to listen, and a chill ran down my spine as I realized that someone was sobbing. The whispering grew louder, and I could make out the words. "They're out there. Something's out there," a trembling voice said. Panic spread through our group like wildfire. The fear was contagious, and we were trapped in that small, dark room with no way to escape. Desperation set in, and some students began to pound on the door, demanding answers, demanding to be let out. But the teacher, a middle-aged woman with a look of terror in her eyes, implored us to remain silent and stay put. She said it was for our own safety, that we didn't know what was happening outside, and it was better to stay hidden. Hours turned into days, or at least it felt that way. We were running out of food and water, and the stench of fear and anxiety hung in the air. Some students had succumbed to panic, and the room had become a prison of torment and despair. As we huddled together in the darkness, a strange realization dawned on me. The daylight that had once streamed through the window had vanished, replaced by an unending night. I looked at my watch, but it had stopped ticking. It was as if time itself had come to a standstill, and we were trapped in a never-ending lockdown. The teacher, her face etched with exhaustion and fear, had lost all hope. She no longer tried to console us or offer words of reassurance. It was as if she had resigned herself to our grim fate. With each passing moment, the darkness outside the door seemed to grow thicker, as if it were alive, pressing in on us. The whispering had ceased, replaced by a heavy silence that was broken only by the occasional muffled sob. I thought of my family, my friends, and all the dreams I had once harbored. They felt like distant memories, fading into the void. I wondered if they were out there somewhere, searching for me, or if they had given up hope, believing that I was lost forever. Days turned into weeks, and our situation became increasingly dire. The supplies had dwindled to nothing, and hunger gnawed at our stomachs. Some students had grown weak, while others had succumbed to madness, their eyes vacant and unseeing. The teacher, too, had changed. She had become a shell of her former self, muttering to herself incoherently. It was as if the unending darkness had taken a toll on her sanity. Then one day, as I sat in the corner, lost in my thoughts, I heard a sound that sent a shiver down my spine. It was a faint scratching coming from the door. I turned to look, my heart pounding in my chest. The scratching grew louder, more insistent, as if something were trying to claw its way into the room. I felt a rising sense of dread as the door shook with each impact. The other students began to panic, their voices rising in terror. The teacher, her eyes wide with fear, rushed to the door and began frantically pounding on it, shouting for help. But the door held, and the scratching continued. I watched in horror as the door began to splinter, and a crack of light appeared. It was as if the darkness outside was trying to force its way in, to consume us. I knew that whatever was on the other side was not human, that it was something otherworldly and malevolent. The crack of light grew wider, and I caught a glimpse of what lay beyond. It was a swirling, chaotic void, a maelstrom of darkness that defied comprehension. I could feel its pull, its hunger, and I knew that it would not stop until it had devoured us all. In that moment, I made a choice. I knew that there was no escape, that our fate was sealed. But I would not let the darkness take me without a fight. I would not go down without a struggle. I grabbed a shard of glass from a broken window and lunged at the door, using all my strength to drive it back. The darkness roared in frustration, and the door slammed shut with a final, resounding thud. I turned to the others, my heart pounding, and I saw the glimmer of hope in their eyes. We were not going to surrender to the darkness. We would fight to the end, whatever that end may be. As we huddled together in that small dark room, the hours turned into days, and the days turned into weeks. We were trapped in a never-ending lockdown, a nightmare from which there was no escape. But we were not alone, and we were not without hope. We would face the darkness together, united in our determination to survive. And as the scratching on the door continued, we knew that the battle was far from over.